Um, so first, you want to introduce yourself? I kind of want to give you a grand introduction, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
worried I'll do it wrong. So, because your last name, I don't know how to say
I
it right.
exactly. That's why people called me Matt P all the
That's what
time.
I
It's like
call
Matt
you.
P. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy. Exactly. So yeah. So my name is Mateuz Piaskiewicz. It's a tough one. Yeah, but usually people call me Matt P, and it's great. And right now I'm a level designer.
Where are you working at right now?
That's complicated a bit because right
Okay,
now I
that
have
should be
a
a simple question.
it should be. It starts awesome, man. Okay, yeah, no, it's only a bit complicated because I have my own company
Ooh,
which
that's
is
new.
like consulting, but most of my work is a full-time job as a level designer, and it feels like I have a bunch of additional consulting jobs on the side. So I'm doing something like that. But actually, it's September. On October, I'm starting something huge. But yeah, I cannot talk about that now.
That's the whole point. Can we record this now and then I could release it after in October?
Uh, I don't know even the name of the
Okay,
company that
then
we're.
let's do a follow up interview after October when you could talk about this stuff.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah,
Um,
but usually, yeah, I was doing just, like full-time level design jobs at the companies like City Project Red, Techland, Flying Wild Hog, and a few smaller companies around Poland mostly, but
yeah.
also in Germany.
So how was the transition from going back and forth from the U.S.? Because first I think I'm jumping ahead. Let's start where when we met at Treyarch.
Yes.
So my first impression of you was, oh my god, this guy is super talented design wise,
Mm.
but he just doesn't know the tools. Like you just didn't know what
Yeah.
buttons to press. And I was
Yeah.
like, no one's helping you. I need to just be like, here, let me show you the buttons because everything else you got. So
Mm.
I was like, and you were also like a blessing for me at that time because
Oh.
I was like so stressed out because we needed another designer on SGen. And
Mm.
this is in Black Ops 3. And I was begging production for a new hire. And then
Mm.
they're like, cool, we can get you a new hire. And then they brought you on. And I was like, yes, we got
Mm.
someone, because,
Yeah.
and it was
But
my
he
first
doesn't know
time.
tools.
Well, it was my first time kind of like running point on a level,
Mm.
right? Where I was like in charge of other designers. And I didn't want to make us crunch a lot. So without you working, we would have had to crunch way more.
Oh, I
so
see.
I was
Wow.
like, so I was like, oh crap, we need this person. So that's some stuff you didn't know about, but I'm
Yeah.
thankful for you for
Man,
doing that.
thank you. It's great to hear that. I mean, like, I'm also super happy that I was able to help because without your help, when it comes to pressing the buttons, I was like even talking with my wife that I want to learn the tools as soon as possible. Like it's more important than even learning English, like proper English, because they can write on paper. I can use translator, but I need to get work done. And
Yeah,
I think it was quite like I don't know, it was like maybe a month or 2 months
yeah.
of intense what this shortcut does, how to do that, and it was fine. Like after your training, I felt really like I knew a lot. Even some other designers were asking, like, "Dude, why you're using that?" Or I remember James saying, like, "Oh, you're using the crosshair in the middle of the viewport. Like, it's only like few people on the world are using that, or something like that."
What
And
really?
I was
Well, no one
messing
took
with.
the time to train James, poor guy. Uh, it's like, I only have
Yeah.
time to
So
train one person and build my stuff and
yeah.
organize the rest of the level.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, with these tools, actually, they are super tricky because there's no documentation.
Yeah,
Yeah, so everything was from you, man. That was crazy.
there is documentation. It's just not very good, and it's the same documentation that the mod community has. So it's like
Exactly. Yeah. exactly.
Yeah. Um, but I'm even surprised that there's a mod community for that. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
surprised because like it's been so long since they released an editor for other level designers or modders.
Mhm.
So it's like so hard to bring in new talent there.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
yeah, I'm checking what they are doing, and actually they are doing really good. I mean, when you see
yeah.
like when I was checking screenshots, I was like, "Oh, this will performance-wise, this will suck," or something like that. But still, it's a great start. Like when you hire a person, he or she already has experience with these buttons. So I would say such people are already better than me when it comes to starting work at the studio.
Yeah. So how was your transition? So you
Hmm.
were at Treyarch. I left Treyarch before you did. So
Hmm.
when did you leave?
Oh my God. I guess it was like mid-September 2016, and then after 2 weeks, I had my first day at CD Projekt Red was like after 2 weeks. So I only had 2 weeks of getting all the stuff from the US
Oh wow.
to Poland, and it was super stressful. But luckily, CDPR is doing a great job when it comes to relocation, so they got me apartment. Then I've lost my keys, and I got me yeah, I know. And it was like 2 weeks apartment, and then I got 2 more weeks because I couldn't find anything on the local market. And I was like, okay, I'll take my family. I have a kid and
Yeah.
a wife, so I took them from my uh, parents' house. And the funny thing is, I've left the keys at their place, and it's like 500 kilometers. I'm not
Oh
sure how many
no.
miles is that. It's like 300 miles
Yeah.
from Warsaw. So yeah, so I went there with my family. My kid was like screaming, like I'm hungry, and I was like, oh, where are the keys? Oh man. So yeah, so luckily a company also helped me with the other apartment. So yeah, that's
Well,
good.
that's good. That's good that they have a relocation. So CD Projekt Red.
Mhm.
Are you excited to see the game coming out this year?
Of course, man. Like it'll be a crazy game. I don't want to talk too much about it, but the thing is, I've learned from these guys. Like even at Treyarch, we were saying like, "Oh, Witcher guys, right? Witcher guys," because different people call that company Project Red or just CD Project. There's multiple versions of it because it's a for some people there's a new studio. It appeared with Witcher 3, but on the Polish market it's quite long. And actually we say that it's CD Projekt Red. This is how you really pronounce that. Okay, so when I was working with these guys and had a chance to talk about why Witcher 3 was awesome, what exactly worked for them, how the process worked, and what they had to skip or what they have to cut from the game, I was just amazed about their process. And the funny thing is, like, usually when we do games, I've met a lot of designers that are bottom up, like we are talking about mechanics or we're talking about even like systems, not really, or just like scrappy experiences, like, oh, this will be cool, this will be fun. But actually talking with some guys from CDPR was like it was full experience, but to the level of so much detail that some people could say it's micromanagement. But I think that with a vision for the game, sometimes you have to be very specific, to the point where we were saying that there will be 3% of people. For example, let's say about the E3 demo that we were working on, the first one. It was 2018 or 17, I don't remember exactly. So we were saying that there'll be like around 3% of people that will see the details from the on the screen that are from the cyberpunk book. Like it's like a few sentences in the book talking about how Arasaka treats Maelstrom, for example. And actually we wanted to show a signs of that. So if someone knows cyberpunk really well, they will see for example motorcycles with Arasaka stickers on it, and they're like, wait a minute, why Arasaka is here? They They don't like each other. It's weird. So it causes to think about that kind of stuff, and we are doing that only for that tiny portion of the audience. And when they are doing something like, for example, we have a cyberpunk world, we go full steam ahead with cyberpunk. Everything that appears on the screen should be cyberpunky, but it shouldn't be a cliche cyberpunk. For example, like let's put bunch of cables on top of the architecture. Usually we were using LA and San Francisco architecture, but morphed. There are different layers and sections, I would say, of the city that are built very long time ago. There are buildings that are brand new, and there are buildings under construction. So if you see the very old part, it really resembles with the California architecture from that area. Because actually, Night City is somewhere between San Francisco and LA. I don't remember exactly what's the name of that, but there's one city in the real world that actually is a district in Cyberpunk.
Oh wow,
In that city. Yeah, it's actually a real place, I would say.
that's awesome. So when you're talking about this kind of, I don't want to say micromanagement, but this attention to detail,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, how are you carrying that over into new work?
Uh, well, so right now I had no chance to actually work on the vision that much, but I often talk with vision holders. It depends, like in the company, it could be a creative director or lead designer. And usually when we have a case where we are talking about some, I don't know, in one game we were thinking about our USP, like what's our the most uh, how to say that, usually when we are doing a game we need to have some kind of like identification that when you take a screenshot people will say like, oh,
Oh
that's
yeah,
your game,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Less
yeah,
like you cannot actually think that as it's like Skyrim or something. No, this is a
yeah,
game X that we made.
yeah.
So when we were thinking about that kind of identification and also the USP for the gameplay,
So when you say
that's where
USP, are you saying US
unique USP, yeah, unique selling
selling
you
point?
point, exactly, yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's like that thing that will make your game stand out from other games. So when we were talking about this, I remember one case. I don't want to get into details because I will spoil too much about some games that are coming up. But we were thinking about the mechanics for such game, and everything we got was super vague. It's like, oh, this will be like Bulletstorm or something like that, right? It's like, can we get a bit more information about that? And what's that kind of 3% of detail that actually hardcore obsessed players will actually get? It's a level of mastery that is even above hardcore gamer that loves your game. It's that kind of obsession. And if we are doing actually that kind of usually that's that kind of question that I ask, what people will be obsessed about in our game.
Nice.
And yeah,
That's a good
usually you get
question.
answers. Yeah, it's usually you get answers, and that question forces people to think. And it's bad when the person that is in charge is saying like, oh, we have, it's not important. It's like, oh man,
Yeah.
no, it's no, no. Yeah, exactly. So when I ask usually this question, it starts to buzz in the brain, and it's not like the first ideas that will drop should be actually the thing that we're going to, but usually it takes a few days. We talk about it multiple times, and even after a weekend a person comes to me and it's like, dude, I had a dream or whatever, or I was thinking
Yeah.
about that in the bathroom, and it will be like that. And usually, yeah, it's a killer. So yep.
That's a great question. I'm going to steal that one from you. That's a
Okay.
really good one. Um, so I guess so. I wrote some stuff down. So, do you have a level design philosophy?
Oh man, it's crazy because like my last few years I've spent on reading a lot of books about different things, psychology, design, level design, game design. And after getting all that knowledge, I feel that I know nothing, that I'm lost. There is that
Oh,
kind
you
of
got the
effect,
information overload?
something like that. I mean,
Analysis paralysis?
yeah, something like that, because I have so many processes from different people that it's quite overwhelming. But the thing is, when I'm thinking about philosophy right now, um, I have so many things in my toolkit that even starting with one would be like, oh my god, what's that? So yeah, do you remember I've sent you? I had that kind of Wikipedia
Yeah,
page, my personal Wikipedia page,
yeah.
where I was listing everything. I've sent you a
Yeah,
screenshot of that.
yeah,
You remember
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah,
Leveldesign.org. Do you want to tell people about it? Are you still? It looks like you're still keeping it up to date, kind of.
I do. Yeah. We
Yeah.
have I have a website called leveldesign.org, and I usually right now I'm only reposting stuff because I don't have time to write my stuff. So when I'm looking for something cool about level design, because I'm always want to grow and see what's up right now on the market, I would say. So I'm going through articles, YouTube videos, and instead of just watching that and wasting it, like that it's only for me, I'm sharing that with a community of like around. Right now there's like 2,000 people a month checking the website, unique users, checking
Wow.
what's up there. So yeah, it's really nice. Like 2,000 guys that are or want to be level designers have that kind of stuff of. If I was watching something and I thought that actually it's pretty useful, it could be cool for them. They don't have to look for it. There's only one place to do that. And on this website, if you go to a page called Knowledge Base, there's actually a listing of a bunch of topics. For example, navigation, perception, the process, really detailed process, like what to do in the prototyping. And actually, this is that page that I will start telling you about. So that's the version on the website is quite small, I would say. I have my personal wiki that is only to me right now, which is much bigger. And every time I watch that, I see how much stuff I have about navigation and all that stuff. It's overwhelming. So when it comes to level design philosophies, what exactly do you mean? Is it like a principles I follow?
I wasn't thinking principles. I kept it loose because I wanted you to interpret that and kind of go where you wanted to go with it. So that was kind of my intentional
All right.
interview tactic.
Ah, okay.
But uh,
All right.
but for me, it's almost like do you have a theory for fun? Right? Like
Oh,
something that you can always pull out. Like you're like, oh, this isn't fun, and then you play it, and you're like, I know why it's not fun. It's not fun because X Y Z. You know?
yeah. Oh man, I have something here. So the first thing is I'm trying to avoid using word fun because it's super
Ooh.
subjective. Yes. So every time, I think actually David Vanderhaar was talking about that once. We had a meeting. Oh yeah, you were already out. You were already working.
I was already at Starbury's,
Yes,
LA.
exactly. Yeah, you went to Starbreeze. Exactly. So the thing is, we had a meeting where we were talking about design stuff, and I remember what David said about two things. First was, what problem are you solving?
Yeah.
What problem do you want to solve? Which is like super crucial, because it actually we were really wandering around with different ideas, but we forgot about what actually we were fixing, which was like really eye opening. It's like where we went with our thoughts. And the second thing was I forgot what I want to say about the fun. Yes, exactly. Like fun is really subjective. So when you use word fun, for some people, um, I don't know, abusing is fun in
Yeah.
our game,
Hmm.
or being toxic is fun. Are we designed for that? So usually, and I was like actually thinking about it, and my philosophy here is I'm focusing on motivations and actually making people get what they want, like get satisfaction from solving these motivations. Not sure is solving is a proper word here, but what I mean is, for example, when you have there are people that are like completionists, right?
Yeah.
They want to get 100% of everything. So by actually allowing them to do that, I'm getting them systems or things to collect or places to visit. I'm giving them systems to actually solve that motivation. Yeah, not sure if solving is a good word
Yeah.
for that, but something like that. Yeah. So that's my philosophy. I usually try to think about the motivations, and there are a bunch of motivations actually, like why people play games. Even like my favorite right now is relaxation. I would love to make a game where you have a bit of challenge, but most of the time you're just walking around the environment and take pictures of them and see how beautiful they are, but they are actually in some places corrupted by some kind of pollution. It could be some kind of like slime or fumes of something, I don't know. And actually you have a huge vacuum cleaner, and that's where the challenge is, where you have to actually clean the environment from that, like, make some
Interesting.
stuff pretty, which is also one of the motivations. It's creativity, because you actually do something from A to B, and also you make stuff pretty, which also a lot of people like. So I
Yeah.
would like to actually make that kind of game where you have exploration, which is very close to my heart, challenge that is not overwhelming. Like for example, when I'm playing, like, I know, Sekiro, it's just too much for me. I have no idea what happened. Maybe I'm getting old,
Yeah.
but it's just, yeah, my hands are shaking when I'm playing that. It's like, oh my god, where's my pills to calm me down or something like that, because it's too much, man. It's too much. Exactly. So yeah, so I'm playing like games like, I know, Borderlands 3 recently is quite fun for me. I said fun. Oh.
Yeah, you said
Yeah,
fun. So I don't think fun's
exactly.
subjective though. I don't.
I mean, it is, because for some people, fun is not. Sorry, Borderlands 3 is not fun.
Well, I
So
think I
somehow,
think I think I think
Mhm.
how you get to fun is different for everybody. But I think
Yeah.
fun is real, right?
Oh,
Like
of course. Yes.
if
Yes.
I'm the,
That's a good point.
um sicko who likes to like camp and just stay
Hmm.
and watch one doorway, right?
Yep.
That's fun for me, right?
Yep.
It might not be fun for the other person, but like that moment's real, right? It's a real moment. So I don't think
Yeah.
it's fully subjective, but I think how is good. And I think your approach to making sure that everyone has an avenue
Hmm.
is really good, because everyone could be like, "Oh, I can enjoy this element of a game." That's why I think like MMOs in particular
Exactly. Yeah.
are really successful, because there's so many different avenues for players to
Hmm.
get enjoyment from, right? Like you can be the PvP only guy, you could do the
Yeah.
PvE guy, you could be the community guy and running the guild, you
Hmm.
can be the person who just wants to play dress up and get the best gear and look pretty and just like, oh, I'm making my
Yeah.
character look good.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it has all of the things. And then
Yep.
collecting and like they have something for everyone for the most part. um
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. MMO is a perfect example. And I wanted to add something here about the. Do you know the Bartle's taxonomy, right? The four guys: a killer, achiever,
I've heard of
competitor,
it.
and
Yeah.
yeah. So there's like four types of
There's
players.
there's different I think there's other takes on it. I think people have taken that further, right? Because
Exactly.
I heard
Yeah.
that there's like a collector.
Hmm.
um what else is there? I forget, but I
So
know what you're talking about.
yeah, so it goes really like, I think Bartle was one of the first guys to actually write that down, and it was based on his game mods. It's one of the mod. I don't remember exactly. It was Doki mods or something like that. I don't remember the name. But the thing was, he made these four categories, and he mentioned that it's very specific for his game, and people like all over the place were like, let's do that for every game, but it doesn't apply. So the second version in the same book, designing virtual worlds was the
Oh, I
name of
have
that
that
book.
book. I have that book.
Yeah, so
Hold on, I
there's
should
like
grab it for people.
uh
Somewhere. I'm gonna have to dig in a bookshelf. I'm
yeah,
not gonna get it.
I have it somewhere here too. I don't know where exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is, in the same book he made also four more. For example, there was like politician, um Avenger, and something like that. Like it was like multiple aspects of being a socializer, or few
Yeah.
aspects of being a killer. So actually it breaks down more. But the best thing so far I've seen about it was the oh my god, what was the name of that? Quantic Foundry. If you type in Google Quantic Foundry, there's a website by Nick Yee and his friends. I mean, friends like coworkers, probably friends. And he figured out 8 categories, and there's like 16 different avenues of it, I think.
All
Do you
right.
see that?
I'm gonna pull it up right now. It's gonna cover you up for a second.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you can still talk while it's.
All right. Yeah, I will check also that website because there's probably exactly Quantic Foundry. There should be a link to a motivation model on the top,
Yeah.
and you see these action, social, master, achievement, immersion, and creativity, and each of them has like 2 aspects of it.
Yep.
So far from all the motivations that are defined by different psychologists, this one really applies to video games quite close. And the funny thing is, you can actually get a subscription on this website. I'm not sure how much it is, but how much it costs. But a bunch of companies I was in, they were using that. It probably is not a huge money. But the cool thing is, imagine that you type, for example, Skyrim, and because of they have bunch of surveys from different people of like how they play different games, what they like. When you type Skyrim, you see what kind of motivations people have solved in this game. So for example, Skyrim is strong
Oh
on
wow.
completion and exploration and something, and it shows you on the graph. And also it shows you a surrounding games like super far and super close. So when you type, for example, Black Ops, you'll see that Counter-Strike is more tactical, so it's more to the left. And it's I know like TTK is different, so it's more to the top. But you have bunch of other games from that
Ooh, that sounds
genre or
awesome.
exactly. And how I was using that was you have this knowledge of there are different games. There are people that are looking for different motivations. For example, skins in what was that in
Fortnite.
the country? Oh yeah, or Fortnite exactly. Let's say Fortnite. They have motivations that are solved in this game, but for example, in your game, you don't have it. So like, oh, we can add skins, and that's a first thought. It's not like it's a ready finished design that you have to just implement and you just you'll get rich. But the thing is, it's a good, I don't know, like cue or just direction with
Yeah.
design to think about. Yeah, so something like that exactly. Yeah, this website is awesome. But I was consulting different companies, and I found that big companies like mature studios will be interested in that, but very indie games are like, oh, we don't want
To
that
pay. Yeah, they don't
psychology
want to
thing.
pay.
That's the first thing. Yeah, if
Yeah.
this would be for free, even if I'm giving them data, they're like, oh, that's a black magic, you evil person, take it away. We know what
What?
players want.
Oh
Yeah,
my god.
I had that experience, dude. There was like guys that were I mean, it will work and it's fine. Like you can design like that. The thing is, these guys were designing their lovely game that they want to play. So their player base
Is them.
were them.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And they have like 50,000 people in the game, and they are super happy because they are doing what they are passionate about.
Yeah.
So it's fine for them. If they don't want to grow the game too much, like adding new activities that will solve different motivations to make this game bigger, that's fine. That's okay. Yeah. I wouldn't call it black magic, like, but
Yeah.
still, it's okay, like, or any kind of heresy.
Well,
Yeah.
there's also you can put the feature in, but if people don't know about it, then you're not going to
hmm
reach that extra people beyond that 50,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And here analytics actually come. That's also awesome. And that's quite new in my experience. Like, I'm not sure how long we are doing analytics on different games, but for example, recently we've noticed that some activities in one game are almost not used. And it's always, I mean, it's also like some kind of like, let's think about it, why actually it happens. Because maybe it's an information problem, or maybe the game is broken, literally, like you cannot
Yeah.
finish something, or it's just too hard. So it's that kind of invitation for investigation, I would say. Analytics are awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, what was that?
That was a motorcycle.
All right.
Yeah, that's what you heard. Yeah, someone's
Well,
like driving really fast outside.
okay.
Um, so tell me about this consulting, because that seems
Mm-hmm.
like that's something that a lot of people would get in trouble for in the U.S. Right? It depends on what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be very careful, I guess, here at least, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to break like, oh, are you working for a competitor and blah
Exactly.
blah
Yeah.
blah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yeah,
how,
exactly.
so
Yeah.
how did you start consulting?
So yeah, exactly. Before actually starting that, like it was idea of my friend that actually we were going back to Poland from the US, and he said that there was that kind of option. And actually, when you consult this one company and actually you focus on their stuff, it would be all fine. And I was actually I got a few people to help me with that because it's quite maybe not popular, but I met proper people, I would say, that actually knew how to start that. So they got all that stuff for me. So usually it's just like the legal stuff, the accounting, and the process. Like the process is the most like I would say it's funny because it's really in this industry it's like super secret, like how much you take money from, I mean how much you ask for, or what kind of presentations you're doing, what kind of workshops, or what exactly you tell them. Yeah, it's very weird because usually everything boils down to the same thing. So it's that kind of like I don't know how to call that, but it's that kind of like secret that actually everybody knows about in the industry. So it's yeah, something like that. But okay, but in general, when I started this company, uh, I got a deal with CDPR, and I was focused on only on that. Like it was only my one thing. But then actually, I've told few people that I'm doing that kind of stuff, and it's like, oh, maybe you want to help us with this game. Maybe you can come and figure out why we are not meeting our deadlines. And I was just talking with them, watching what they are doing exactly, then thinking about it's that's sometimes, especially when it comes to the process, it's like super hard because when you talk with leads, everything is fine. They're like,
Oh yeah,
man, I don't like what's going on with these people. They
yeah,
don't want
because they
to.
want to keep
Yeah,
their job.
that's one of the aspects of, or they're like completely blind. They don't get it. Just yeah, that there's like different levels of that. Yeah, so that's one thing. They don't see a problem because the problem means his boss will be not happy about it. So usually it's like I have no idea what's going on. Everything looks fine on the papers. So let's see under the hood. And actually, when you talk with people, it's like, do you have goals? It's like, no. Do you have like I don't know task estimates? No. So yeah, there's like you can see already there's a bunch of missing things that actually will help them meeting deadlines. When you
Yeah,
know what you want to achieve, when you have a goal, it's a bit easier
yeah, yeah.
to achieve it, and especially when you have this goal broken down to tasks, which you can actually estimate. That's even better. So yeah, so that kind of stuff, and usually there's like it's hard to get in trouble with that kind of stuff because I'm usually trying to, that's why I'm reading like a lot of books, like usually after like every year I'm trying to read 30 books. This year is already 21.
Wow.
So yeah, and my like right now I'm reading a book that is like melting my brain. It's spatial handbook of spatial, how to read that,
Spatial,
cognition. Yeah,
spatial
spatial.
cognition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think I might
and
have that one too.
it's
But
like a big format. Yeah, but
yeah,
it's oh my god, it's melting my brain because it's like
it's
oh
how your eyes work and analyze space.
exactly.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
that,
yeah.
or I read a white paper on it. But
Mm.
yeah,
Exactly, it's about sensing. Like I already found out a lot of cool things about how landmarks work, for example, but the what are the gender differences when it comes to using landmarks, but actually landmarks are quite easy, and 99.9% of people will get landmarks.
gender
When you have
differences.
gender differences, yeah, so when it comes to that's very
That's new
even
to
in
me.
this.
I love landmarks. I use them all the time. But
Yeah, exactly,
gender
yeah.
differences. I wasn't thinking about that.
exactly.
As
So
far as
when you
I'm
want to
concerned, girls don't play games. Just kidding.
there's no problem, right? No, I'm
I'm
actually
just kidding,
concerned
people.
about that kind
Just
of, yeah,
kidding.
yeah, I know. Yeah, no,
I know. I'm just talking to the internet right now because
I know.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
get in
yeah, yeah. We
trouble.
just want to, yeah. And the thing is, with these gender differences, like for example, landmarks are the best way to make sure that it will work as a landmark. And there are two types of landmarks. One is the beacon, which is you have something huge in front of you, and you actually that's where you want to go, so you just go toward it. It requires the least mental cognition and no training. We do that from our genes, I would say. It's natural for us. But there are ways that actually has to be learned. And usually you learn that by exposition. For example, you are lost in a city and you have a map. And it's not like we have some kind of special genes, like, for example, males, that actually will help you guide yourself with a map. It's just a matter of training.
Being exposed to it early on.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, for example, when someone is not being exposed to that thing, that person needs to learn that. And usually, it's a cultural thing of like how often who is using the map in which cases. So, what my observation here is that um, it's not like you need to have a talent to navigate. The difference is not in our genes, but the difference is in the exposition to different methods. So I'm thinking now how to actually break that down to level design. But so far, the information that bacon works for
For
everyone.
everyone.
Yeah, that's first
And
thing. That
are you saying beacon or bacon? Like pig meat? Or are you saying beacon like a light, like a
Beacon,
something that
yeah, not bacon, right? Yeah,
okay.
that's
I
me.
just want
That's
to make it
fast.
cleared up for people because a lot of
Yeah,
people use the word weenies and I hate that word for
me
landmarks.
too.
I hate that word. It's like don't use that word. Like that's the worst word. Just say landmark.
I know, yeah,
Beacon's
right.
a much better word.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
bacon, yeah, not bacon, but bacon is like another weenie, I would say.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So the side note here is actually when I landed in the U.S. My English was quite. I mean, still funny, but actually a lot of things I've learned from you because I was like,
Really.
for example, yeah, I remember one thing I was asking you what means darn on this kind of like cheese or whatever, and you said like it's when kids want to say damn or something like that. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I've learned a lot from you and also from Aki.
So the 30 books a
Yeah,
year. What
yeah,
made you start that? And that because that seems so hard. Are you counting audiobooks too, or are you just doing pure reading?
you're reading. Yeah, I mean, I don't have audiobooks because when I have a time to listen to something, usually it's in the car when I'm going to work. And now with COVID, I'm sitting at home, so I'm not listening to anything. But usually, I'm listening to podcasts. I have a kind of cool application on the phone that actually syncs your playlist with PC. So sometimes I'm listening for something on a PC, but usually, during work when you're scripting something, you're thinking about letters. It's hard to listen to someone, especially for me. Like when I listen to English and write in English, it's not my first language, so I'm
Oh,
like, oh,
got it.
yeah.
That makes sense. I'm the same way, but I don't script as much.
Lucky
So
you.
you're scripting. That's the thing I wanted to get into actually, because
Hmm.
um, I feel like working at Treyarch for such a long time, it makes you stuck as this level builder, right? Because I was
Hmm.
just building. So that's kind of this really weird position that's not really in the industry. It's really only in
Hmm.
Call of Duty companies, right? Where you're
Hmm.
this artist, designer, hybrid specialist,
Yeah.
right? Because you're
Yeah.
like designing, but you're really thinking about the space and how a player feels while navigating a space, right? But
Hmm.
also making sure it looks good too. At the end of the day, I'm being an environment artist and a level designer. So it's not just like gray blocks done, right?
Yeah.
And then the scripters are only focusing on scripting the events and gameplay stuff too. So you're kind of splitting
Mm.
the work in half. really, which is
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
really good for production. Which I'm like, oh, okay, like this is good to make games high quality and fast when you have that
yeah,
super specialization.
yeah.
Um,
It's way easier to hire. Also, like people that can only script and they can only build. When you want to have a kind of jack of all trades that will do everything, it's super hard to get them. Like it was quite, for example, I'm from the modding community of Quake 1, so I had to make textures by myself,
yeah,
brushes, gameplay, which is super easy, but still there was something. So it was my background to do stuff like that. But now when people are getting Unreal Engine 4, for example, usually they
yeah,
focus on like I can do some simple scripting and a lot of cool geo. So it's even different with that. But when you go to Half-Life 2, for example, or Half-Life Alyx, and you have tools available with gameplay actually in the game, you can actually do something. But it's not that popular like it
yeah,
was back then.
yeah. But I think it's also because Source 2 is not out yet. I really am looking forward to see what Valve does when they release Source 2
Mm-hmm. It's
tools.
not?
No,
Okay, because I've seen some people on Twitter actually showing screenshots from Half-Life Alyx
the,
maps.
people are opening them up. I think in an older version. I think
Okay.
it's all compatible or something.
Okay. All
Because
right.
I was
Okay.
looking for a download like a month or two ago, just to
Mm-hmm.
see if I can mess around and make something. Because I've been in VR for the last since I left Treyarch. I've been making VR.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's
yeah.
so
4
that's
years, 5 years.
so that's way different than flat
Yeah.
games. You learn a lot.
Is it an official term, like flat
That's
games?
that's the official term for VR people. We all call them flat
Or
games.
oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Nice.
But our 2D games. We'll call them 2D games, but they're 3D. But we call them 2D.
Yeah,
So I think flat is better.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Makes sense.
but it's very different. So I wanted to see like, oh, if I can make something in their engine because it's
Mm-hmm.
VR. But I couldn't find anything. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot. Maybe I need to you know. But I was just looking on Steam, and I just thought maybe I'll find the tools there because that's how
Mm.
you could find Hammer before.
Yep,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm excited too about it.
um, okay, so looking at different things for hiring people and the skill set, right? Because I've been in Unreal since leaving Treyarch too.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we've been in Diesel before that. So Diesel, have you even heard of Diesel?
Is it the
It was the Payday. It
Starbreeze
was
engine?
the Payday Starbreeze engine,
I
and
only heard of, never seen that
it
live.
was it was really bad. Imagine working in Radiant with no undo.
What?
Exactly. There's no undo.
Like,
You couldn't control
why?
Z.
Oh my god.
It's so bad. And then they wonder why their game is filled with bugs. Like
Oh
you
my god.
need good tools, people.
I was working on such thing, like for example, at Techland. When I joined Techland, it was 2006, and I remember times when we had no Control Z, but it took like 2 months for them to actually do it. But my favorite story about the editor is there was a Polish game called Mortyr. It's a very old World War II, like I would say Polish Wolfenstein game. Uh, 2002 maybe, like quite old game. And when they are actually doing the game, they had no editor, but everything was set up in the game. So you had a no clip, like free camera, and you were drawing brushes and texturing them in game, and the game was actually running. So it was almost like Fortnite, but like 20 years ago.
That actually sounds pretty cool. That
It
sounds
sounds
pretty
cool.
cool.
And the cool thing, when the game was running, so when you were setting up enemies actually,
Would it
you as an
follow and attack
editor,
you and check
yes,
the
you could
camera?
die. You could literally die during war. So imagine when you're doing a level and then you can hear some kind of like German soldier voices behind you. You look at your feet and there's a grenade there and you die
there
actually.
was something like that in Unreal 2004. I think I did something like that on accident
Or,
because you can possess a camera,
hmm
and I don't know. I don't even remember. I'm not even talk about it because it was too long ago.
All
Um,
right.
so the 30 books, what made you start that?
Okay, yeah. So the story was my friend told me that there's a cool website called Goodreads, and I started putting books that I've already read, and I've noticed that
Yeah,
year after
I like that
year,
that site. I use it too.
yeah, Goodreads is awesome
Yeah.
because actually it's also touches your motivations of maybe not completion, maybe not competition, but there's that kind of thing that you see progression, and when you can add two more, just like one more level, it's something like that. You're very close to get one more book to actually have a round number of 30 books. So it's like, okay, I'll just, instead of
Oh, it
watching TV
gamified
shows,
it. It gamified reading for you.
they could gamify that even more by giving some kind of like experience point, but luckily they
Yeah,
didn't do it. So it's only in my brain, and because I'm a designer, so I gamified that myself somehow.
that's
All right, so
smart.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like it's taking over control over me. So
Because I'm the opposite though. When things get gamified, I get really mad at it because I'm like, this isn't even fun.
yeah,
And I'm like, this is a
yeah,
bad game. I don't want to waste my time playing a bad game, and then I'll not do the thing.
yeah, yeah,
Right? So
yeah.
I'm like the
Usually,
opposite.
I remember when I was getting training in one of the companies, it was like the e-learning e-learning thing when we have a website and there's a question like, oh, James actually was doing insider trading, is it okay? And you have
Oh yeah.
options like, yeah, sure, go ahead, or something like that. You have different options and you get points for that, and after actually getting like, I don't know, 10 out of 10, you have that kind of celebration like in mobile games. And I was sitting in that office, like, how usually game dev offices look like. It's very dark, everybody is,
Yeah.
it's different. Sometimes it's very quiet, sometimes very loud, but it's a very specific place. And then I see that celebration on my screen. And it was so out of tone for that it actually, there's that kind of like level of immersion that have to be met, to just stop thinking about how weird it is. And actually, because of that celebration on the screen, all these confetti and colorful things appeared, and I was like, what I'm doing, right? Yeah, weird.
So
Yeah, but going back to the question,
I was
what
gonna
was?
I was gonna ask for a different. I was just asking what made you get into all those books,
Mm-hmm.
because that seems awesome. I mean, I definitely like reading, but it's so hard to find time. I can't imagine you doing your consulting and a normal job and having your wife and kid and finding
Yeah,
the time to read. Do you play games or did you quit playing games? Because
I
that's a
very I play only games that I so yeah. There's a thing.
yeah.
I
There
will tell
has
you
to be
how
a
I do that.
sacrifice.
Yes, and I found I think I'm in a good place where I'm fair to all my aspects of life. So usually I'm reading when everybody's asleep at home, so my kids are sleeping and my wife is sleeping, so I don't feel I should, I'm doing something wrong. So I'm usually reading at night, and it takes me 1 2 hours, sometimes four even, like when something is super awesome. But and weekends are awesome actually. Usually we go to there's a cool coffee place in Wrocław where we go with a book. So me and my wife are reading something, and kids are just sitting there eating something or playing with them. So, yeah, oh, yeah. So yeah. So when it comes to games, that's a bigger problem to play. Like I prefer reading books right now than playing games, but because of like, I'm a level designer and I need to see what's going on. So usually at work, I'm watching walkthrough videos. This is how I finished Sekiro actually, by watching how actually it turns out.
Oh no!
Yeah, and when
But
I'm
you
playing at
played it. You
home,
played it, and then you gave up, and then decided to
yes,
watch. Okay,
yes,
that's
yes,
fair.
because
I've done
yeah,
that too, but I don't like to admit it because it's like, I don't have time for this, or it's too hard.
yeah,
I
yeah,
play
yeah,
games
it
on
was,
easy too. That's a pro tip when you're old. Put the games on
yeah,
easy,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you can
yep.
save some time and some heartache.
Yeah, and the worst part is actually a bunch of games are actually very crappy at on easy mode.
That's
It's
true. Yeah,
it's not showing like everybody. I mean, not everybody. I don't want to say everybody, but some designers are designing for the medium level as the go-to skill difficulty level,
Mhm.
and it plays really well. You see all the patterns that are intended and all that stuff. And actually, easy is just like, oh, let's cut that. Let's make this longer. You know, the window of opportunity, for example, and it looks weird. It's not what designer intended. And some good games are actually really polished when it comes to that. But I've already encountered a few games that were just like, okay, is a story mode or easy mode is just like, let's make something like, yeah, like, you know, they will not complain maybe. So yeah, so that's not cool.
Yeah, it's really hard to design for multiple modes though. Like I
Yeah.
almost wish that, like I would rather just not even have them, right? Like get rid of them if you're not
Hmm.
taking that time, right? Like just
Yeah.
don't even have
Yeah,
them.
exactly. Exactly, yeah. So there's a kind of stuff called dynamic adaptation or something like that systems that actually when you play the game actually is checking how much resources you have, how you handle them,
Yeah.
and adjust difficulty. And actually it's pretty cool, but some players don't like it. Like it's really easy to abuse that. And a good example was Resident Evil 4, I guess, or yeah, let's say 4. I don't remember exactly, but speedrunners found that actually, if you're doing really bad at the beginning with killing zombies, the game becomes super easy later. So you can speedrun through the whole game
Wow.
like super easy. So, and because of that became really famous, some designers and some players are like, wait a minute, that's not cool. Like that's a flaw of this game. So yeah, you have to be really careful with the kind of systems. But going back to this finding time for books, uh, when I'm working, usually it's like 8 hours a day. But because of consulting, there's a lot of work. I would say behind the curtain. So when you go to the studio and they ask you like, "Oh, we have this game and we have trouble with, I don't know, getting traction with certain level design aspects, like people are lost or something like that." You see that, and you can actually toss some ideas from the head, but I don't want to do it because quite often the first idea is not the best idea. So I'm telling them like, okay, this is what I see, and actually it needs more investigation. And that investigation at home, when they're actually thinking about it, checking other games for reference to actually prove them that there is something, that takes a lot of time. And my mistake here is I have no idea how to estimate that, because I often say like, oh, this will be an hour, and
Got
it's
it.
a whole night. Yeah, because I cannot find a good example, or it simply I don't have good evidence. Even in my head, I don't believe myself that it will work. And if I don't believe myself, then I don't want to tell them what I
Yeah.
think, because I can get them in trouble. There's always that risk, and I'm always maybe not scared but aware of that they might get in trouble, because I've seen a lot of cases even in Polish game dev where consultants came to the office, said, "Oh, you need that person, you need to change this process," and studios are actually adapting. They want to listen. Even the most, like, I know, how to say that, like people that don't like to change, there's probably that kind of a
Stubborn.
name. So yeah, stubborn people, exactly. They usually they are, they want to be open for that. And sadly, because of consultants are not giving enough information of like what will be the outcome, how it should be, there should be a person holding their hands when they are actually doing that to see if it works. When the consultant just comes to the office, tells that's wrong, that's bad, that's cool, change that, and he goes home, and they are left with these problems, it can get a pretty nice disaster, because of they have only a scrappy information how to fix that. For example, they had a process on a paper, or even like they've listened to this guy and like, okay, let's try it, and quite often it ends up with trouble, because they never did that. If they would be so smart, they would do that themselves. So yeah, so leaving people with just like, here are your problems, have fun, that's the worst that consultant can do. And I've seen already that cases, even with workshops, it was not enough to make other, like some teams or some studios, mature enough to handle that without any help from outside,
So,
especially the process.
So
Yeah.
what do? You give them the problems, you give them solutions to the problems, but that's not a guarantee that they're going to listen to the solutions or
Yeah, or implement that correctly. So
yeah.
it's a thing that it's like a therapy, I would say. You have to come more often after a few weeks, and or like every second week or something like that, and see how stuff is going, and talking with right people, because when you go to complainers, even if something will go good, they will complain because they're like that. It's like a, the kind of
Yeah.
state of mind after
It's their
5 years
nature.
for yeah, after 5 years in the company that everything sucked for them, even a small change would be not big enough to make them feel was like, okay, we're going that way, a good way or something like that. So exactly, when you're talking with wrong people, it will be always great or bad, and any kind of actions you're doing will not get any kind of results that you can actually measure, and measuring results is super important.
So when you go to a company, who do you usually talk to? Do you talk to like the head of their production or do you talk to like CEO level
So
stuff? Because I could see people in that kind of middle management tier
mhm,
doing the whole everything's fine, we're okay, we don't need your help, and then it
mhm,
just creates more problems, or they're
mhm.
not putting in these steps that you're talking about in terms of the process to get the actual production on track, right? Because they're the reasons why it's off track.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Usually, stuff is when that's a huge mistake when it comes to taking consultants. They take them when stuff is on fire already. So even when I'm there, it's too late to do something meaningful. The best part, I mean, the best moment for getting consultants is during or after the post-mortem of the project, because you have time to react. So when you're doing the post-mortem, like, oh, our project failed or something like that, um, maybe we can do something better next time if we have enough money to actually sustain the business, and actually create a better process, and then you take help, because when everything is on fire, there's a huge risk that consultant actually will just add more to that fire. But what was your question again, because I've derailed that a bit.
No, that was great, but it
Okay.
was who do you talk to,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
usually
who
it's
are you reporting to? Because if you're saying, oh, the production, like the sometimes I could see the problem being people, right? Not
yeah.
necessarily even a process. It's like, oh, you have these toxic individuals
Mhm.
or people that are being roadblocks, or maybe they're just too slow, or maybe there's
Yeah.
too much on their plate. I don't know what the situation is, but
Hmm.
if there are people that are the problems, you don't really want to tell them that they're the problem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. So usually, I talk with the person that asked me to come to their office. So all the deals I had was because of, like, I was working with that person and he's in the other office now, or by word of mouth. My friend told his friend that actually I'm doing that kind of stuff. So I've never sent an offer to the company because I was like, oh, maybe they need help. Usually, I was getting information from my friends, like, oh, can you come and let's see what will happen. So usually, well, I know these guys, or I know their friends, so there's already some kind of relationship already established,
Got it.
and it's a very loose talk, and usually there's like project leads, but on the level, like, in small offices, small companies, project leads are actually almost like creative directors, and in bigger companies I was talking, for example, with senior and lead designers, which quite often is not enough. Like, it would be great to go
Yeah.
higher, but it's not possible. So I mean, even if it would be, I wouldn't change anything. But going back to the thing, when you said there are people that are stubborn or people that are doing any kind of harm, unintentionally or unintentionally, when I see something like that, I need to figure out the step in the process that will be that will allow to actually somehow fix that. And it's very case by case solution, so I have to think about it. But I had one thing when we had a bottleneck of of a person that was actually reviewing everything in the game from dialogues to environment to systems. Just
That's like a
I need
big
to.
common bottleneck is like people like
Yeah,
who want to see everything. It's like, but you're not an
yeah,
expert in everything.
yeah. I mean, this guy was very smart, not expert definitely in everything, but he had a vision and he was filtering everything through that vision. So for dialogue, it was like, is it in a good tone? Is it, I don't know, for example, this person's supposed to be cynical? Is it cynical? It is. Great. So he gets a kind of like stamp of approval on everything. And the thing is, uh, it feels for him like he's doing a great job, but he doesn't see the line of people waiting and doing nothing or doing stuff that is not related to goals, any kind of dysfunction uh, of people that are waiting in line for this review. And one of my propositions here was maybe we could get some power, more power to the leads to actually evangelize the vision. And actually, the guy was at the beginning super stubborn. He was like, the first moment we will be alone in the room, he will just punch me in the face or something like that, because he wanted to finish this game. Everything was on fire. But the thing was, when I said leads evangelizing the vision, he completely changed his, like, I've seen his eyes opening wide. As like I would say, uh, you know, uh, I don't even have an example for that, but like
Yeah.
it was a big change for him, and then we become really maybe not friends, but like we finally could work together, and he said like uh, I will prepare an example of the vision for every department, and actually he did only for a few, the most trusted, I would say, departments, which was like few departments. And when he did that, the leads at the beginning were like, dude, we're not doing that, because every time we will do some kind of like any kind of like failure, that he won't like it, we will be in trouble because of that.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's a problem of his personality. And with that, you just it's I don't want to mess with anyone's personality, and exactly that was the case, where okay, so leads got this mandate to do that. They were doing that, but they were stressed because of that. And with that is like,
Yeah.
luckily it helped, and luckily it didn't do any harm to the team. But my my thought was, there was no guts from the people in charge to actually tell him that, dude, that kind of check out what kind of actions and behaviors are doing that reaction in your in these people. So when you are maybe not screaming, but when you are that offensive about your ideas and the vision, how precious it is, they are listening, they are smiling on the meeting, but when they go home, they are like shaking, man. Like, that's crazy. So yeah, there was never such a talk. And that's crap, right? Because
Yeah.
the management, the top designers, I would say, not the top designers, but top management, the executives, even when they know about the problem, they know that this guy is gold. Like, it's huge money for them, because he has a vision that really will sell their game. So if they will change any kind of like cog in the system, in the machine, it might break the whole machine, and the game will be dead or something like that. So they are really careful about such people. They don't want to change anything, because when they are comfortable and they are doing their job, they are fine. But it's awful in my opinion.
Yeah. That is awful.
Yeah, like, yeah. And bunch of studios actually recently had this like kind of not sure how to call that, a leaks, or these articles on Kotaku, for example,
Yeah.
when they're like talking, oh, Studio X, there is a person in the studio that is doing that kind of stuff. And what I'm saying actually is quite a soft version, because people go even further with that. Like, they are, for example, uh, when there's a woman in the office, they are doing stupid jokes about her and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
really, really crap. Yeah.
Um. So, have you thought about coming back to the U.S.?
Yes. Yes, I was thinking about it, but I mean, so yeah, so it's complicated, I would say. So first, like there's already no visas for people like me. For most of the game devs, actually, it
Yeah,
will be
yeah, it's
super
hard.
hard. Yeah,
It's
when
hard,
I
and you
was
had the visa,
Mhm.
so I was like, why did he leave? But you are kind of there's a double edged sword with the visa, because that
Yeah,
employer has the control over you. I don't know
yeah,
if you want to explain that for people if they
sure.
don't know.
Yeah. So first, when I was going to the US, I had a O1 visa, which is like alien with extraordinary skill, which is like quite. It's not like you really have to know rocket science to get this visa. So it only sounds like that. But some people call that rockstar visa because you need to have exposition on internet. When you have your own book, that's great, but bunch of people don't. So for example, even interviews, just like we are doing right now, if I would try to get a visa, this interview would really help me because I have exposition, and actually comments below could be like, "Oh, Matt is cool. This guy knows what he's saying," so we can actually take screenshot of that, and that's the evidence for the immigration officer that will decide if I'm good enough, which is super hard for them to tell about that kind of
Yeah,
stuff from stupid comments or interviews on internet about games. So the thing is, yeah, I got that visa. Then I got H1B, which is a bit better, probably better to get actually a green card. But then I had some personal, with my mom, there were like some things in
oh,
Poland that I had to be very close
oh, is
to
that
my
why you
family.
moved back?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. I mean, so there are two things, maybe even more. LA is awesome, but I have a kind of like love-hate relationship with that city. I like the I mean, back then in 2015, 16, not sure how it's right now, but I really like the city. I like
Yeah.
the people around, and everybody was super friendly. Even if you've seen some less friendly people, it wasn't like, like in Eastern Europe, I would say. So,
Okay.
yeah.
The weather makes you hard. Makes hard
Oh, yeah,
men.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So the thing is, yeah, I really like the community of like, I mean, yeah, I was living in Santa Monica, so if I would probably go to other places in LA, to the south or to east, probably would be a bit different. But still, even if I was going to France or just going, I love driving, so I was driving around LA during nights, and
I remember you
I
were
just
telling
love.
me about the places you were going, and I was like, "What? Why are you over there?"
Yeah, exactly. I was everywhere.
Yeah,
Like
you were.
Compton was my
Yeah,
favorite.
you loved going to Compton and Watts, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, geez, I was scared for you."
Dow- Downey was awesome. There's the oldest McDonald's in Downey. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Long Beach is great. Downtown, I really like downtown. My wife actually wanted to live in downtown, but it was just so far and so expensive, and that's the hate part of that relationship. It's like rental prices
Yeah,
and just
that's for
cost of living.
everyone. Everyone
Yeah,
hates the
yeah,
cost of living
yeah,
here,
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
When
it's worse now, right? Like
I've
it's
heard,
higher.
yeah, every time I have a feeling of like, I it would be awesome to come back to States because I would love to come back there. Mostly 90% is the people. Like, we had a great team, and the community around game dev in LA is amazing. Like everyone is around Naughty Dog, Santa Monica Studio. Is that their name right now?
Yeah,
Is it Sony Santa Monica?
yeah.
Santa Monica Studio, yeah. Even in Culver City, there's a bunch of places like, oh my God, what was that? Heart Machine, Hyper Light Drifter guys. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
they,
Um,
yeah, yeah. There are a few places, smaller companies, but yeah, it was great,
yeah, this
and
is the Mecca.
exactly. So yeah, so I miss that. But when I'm thinking about it, how I miss that, I'm checking Westside Rentals and I'm checking my place, which was 1,500 in 2015, and now it's
Yeah.
2,000. So I'm like,
Yep.
okay, $500 every year is 100
Every.
more, and
Yep.
it's not the worst. There are way worse,
Yeah.
pay raises for here. So yeah, so I had that thing, and when I've left, I went to CDPR, went to my company, and when I was thinking about coming back, So right now with a visa, 2 years ago it was fine, but now it's super hard to get visa because there is no O1 visa. From what I've heard, H1B is it's really tough to get, or I've mixed that. Maybe it's O1 that is left. I don't remember, but yeah, but like they are cutting these options, and from what
Yeah.
I've heard, bunch of companies in LA from game dev are quite upset, and they are suing the government or something like that to
I
actually
haven't heard
because of
about this. I need to do some research on it.
yeah. I've heard actually it's like for a bunch of companies, getting people from Europe uh, is great to have them actually on site instead
Yeah,
of like that time difference. So right now at your place it's midnight, right? I have
it's past midnight. It's
some
almost one.
yeah, exactly. And I just woke up. It's like 9, 10 a.m.
Yeah,
almost. Yeah, so that's a huge difference, right? And then when working, that's only trouble. Yeah.
yeah. It it kind of sucks, but there is some perks to it because then you have people working 24/7,
Yes, you can
right?
make a factor.
So yeah, you can make the factory keep grinding
Yeah.
out. So
Mhm.
I was doing outsourcing. So all the people that I would work with would be in China, sometimes India, but mostly China. And it would be like, okay, cool. I'm gonna send them their tasks for the
Mhm.
day, and then in the morning I come and it's like, oh, let me see what's done. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Send
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
another batch,
Yeah.
and it was kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. If something goes well with the process and communication, it will work. But
Yeah,
sometimes I was in places where even when you have two rooms on different floors, the communication is gone. Like there's like it's like a different planet. So
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, if we can fail something, we can fail anything actually. Yeah.
Um, the next question I have for you was,
Hmm.
do you see any current design trends in the
Hmm.
industry that you're like, oh, this is kind of the industry keeps moving towards this, or
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, for example, in general design, I think these motivations will be bigger and free to play, and actually making people pay for the game that is free. I see that like recently, Rocket League became free to play, and
Mhm.
they already have 1 million players. And actually, if the design is well thought out, people will spend $1 here and there, and actually they may actually how to say that it could be more profitable for them instead of like selling
Yeah,
full price or just like some kind of like fixed price. That's one thing. And when it comes to level design, I see that there's a lot of catchphrases appearing. For example, like for the last few years, affordance was a new big buzzword. Word,
yes,
um,
yes.
yeah,
I hate that word, but I love what it means.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. I mean, people very confuse that. I was reading Gibson, and also there was one more book about the affordances. Even in the book I'm reading right now, there are things about affordances, and really people mess that up with visual language. It's in conflict, and I was even asking people that are affordance promoters, I would say, and they're like, I don't know, man. Like, what's the difference between visual language and affordance? But yeah,
there's
yeah,
a
I'm trying to figure
difference.
out that.
There's a
Yeah.
difference. It's hard to say it because affordance is such a weird word, but I would say the difference is like a visual language is repetitive, but it's also unique to your game,
Yeah.
and affordance is inherited from reality or expectations upon
Hmm.
past experiences.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
not unique to the game world, right? Like
Hmm.
so, like Mirror's Edge, their visual language of the highlights for
Hmm.
what you can interact, that's visual language. It's not affordance, right?
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
like normally when I see a wall, right, the affordance of a wall is I can't run up it. It's a wall, it's a blocker, right?
Yep.
In Mirror's Edge,
Yep.
that's not true. If
Yeah.
it glows yellow, I can run up it. And
Yep.
you know,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Exactly.
Use that example.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. So see, like it's doable. It's like, but still, even people that are really using that word over time, they confuse that,
Well,
and yeah.
because here's the thing, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for it. So get ready,
Mm,
guys. Get ready, world.
mm,
Uh, there's a lot of academics that just write lectures on Gama Sutra, or they write, little blogs, and they're full-time writers. They're
Mm-hmm.
not full-time game developers.
Mm-hmm.
They're full-time students. So they like to use flowery language to make themselves sound really smart
Yeah.
and to make themselves appear to experts. And it's like, cool, your blog's on Gama Sutra, you're an expert, but you're probably not as good as the person who spent 10 years in the trenches and just worked.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's just kind of a shame because I think a lot of students are getting all of their information from
Mm-hmm.
the scholars, not the people who are grinding,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I kind of feel a little bit bad for them because I'm like, because the people who are grinding don't have time to go and write a book or
Yep.
write the blogs or
Yep.
make the
Yep.
YouTube videos because
Yep.
they're working, probably because most companies, I don't know how is the crunch. That's the next question. I'm
Yep.
gonna continue
Okay.
this,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but usually people here they're working 10 hours when they're in the
Mm-hmm.
heat of it. They're not working 8. They're working
Mm-hmm.
10 at least, maybe 12,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 14, maybe 16 hours. And they come home and then they see their kids are asleep and their wife's asleep and
Mm-hmm.
they just go to sleep and they wake up and repeat, right? Like that's their
Yes.
life,
Oh. Yeah.
right? So I just don't think it's fair because those people don't get any opportunity to kind of share their knowledge with people. That's one of the reasons why I started this, because I wanted to get
Mm.
everyone to kind of share their information with people, because I was just sick of like reading blogs about stuff and being like, oh, these people don't know what they're talking about, or they do but they're missing this whole big issue. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to add something to that because I think you're totally right. There's a spectrum of people on the internet. That sounds crazy, but it's like when it comes to sharing knowledge, you have people that I've noticed that are people that won't really have a urge to share something, but they don't have a lot of experience, and quite often their advice is, but what about that, what about that, uh, how do you understand this, like for example, leading lines. Oh my god, like people are taking a screenshot of a corridor with no options to go to other place, and they are doing these arrows like
I've seen it. I've seen it.
yeah.
They're like, look at the leading lines, and it's like, that's
Yes.
just perspective, dude. That's just happens when you're in a
Exactly.
1 point perspective.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, so that kind of stuff. And then there are some places where actually leading line works, but still that kind of advice is like
Yeah.
not really getting people there. And then there on the other spectrum of that spectrum is there are people that are working just like you said full time for 15 years, for example. They have like huge knowledge, but yeah, they they go home and they spend time with their family, or they have hobbies and they are not thinking about actually sharing that. It's it's fine, it's okay.
Yeah.
But what I've found is when I'm doing consulting jobs and then going to different places, I had a chance to meet people that I wouldn't meet, and I wouldn't had these conversations without getting hired in this company. So the cool thing is I can have my full-time job and doing consulting, talking with people just as an employee of their companies. So it was amazing to get so many points of view from different peoples and see their methods, because actually even as a consultant doesn't mean that I know everything. I'm also learning even after going through all these books. Every time I'm opening a new book, usually there's a kind of stuff like, oh, this is groundbreaking for me, like I understand how to really engage the player, for example, or understand goals on a different level with connected with rewards, motivation, stuff like that. I'm constantly building my process. So even after meeting these people that are not available for everyone, it's amazing. Yeah, but still, that thing that actually there's a bunch of vocal people that can mislead you on the internet. It's a yeah, it's a real
Yeah.
thing.
It's like, I don't know, it just frustrates me. I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
just
but
gonna get
yeah,
off of
what
it. Cause
Yeah, we cannot do about it anything. So we can't do anything about it. So yeah, so that's why
so
you're doing that podcast actually.
yeah, because
It's
I
great.
want to. I mean, it kind of like I don't have enough time to like keep it up. So I'm
Yeah.
like really trying. I want to get I want to build up to a guest a week. Right now I'm doing about a guest a month. So I'm like it's a monthly podcast.
Nice. Nice. That's good.
Right
Yeah.
now, but I
Yeah.
want to build it
Do you
up
know
to
story? Do you know story about my podcast?
no.
So I had 2 episodes, and every episode was
Cool.
like
Now we're tied. Now we're tied. You're episode 2, so you'll be.
yeah, exactly. So the thing is, I've made first like I know like 4 years ago, then second after a year,
Oh
and now
no.
it's that. Yeah, because I really want. I had the same motivation as you that actually there are things that should be said, and I can make a show about it on the YouTube, like a channel. And the thing was, we were talking about how much time I have during a day, and I really thought I will be able to actually record podcast and drop it on the website, and it will be fine. It should be like 2 hours, but actually post processing, preparing the script, that's way more, and I
Yeah.
couldn't afford it. My
Well,
there,
I mean,
I had not
that's why
enough
this
time.
isn't scripted. There's no
Yeah,
time to
that's a
script.
very
There's no
yeah,
time to script it, and I'm
that's
I'm
important though.
I'm
Yeah.
really trying to figure out how to maximize the time.
Hmm.
I watched a course on how to make YouTube videos, and it's been really helpful because
Nice.
they talk about like just a bunch of different like tricks to speed up your workflow to get you constantly making more videos. Um,
Mm, nice.
okay, so what was the next thing? I wrote some notes. So going back to the books, right? You were talking about information overload and like you don't really know what to believe anymore because you have all of this information. Uh, like why or like what? Because like to me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but also I'm not reading 30 books a month or a year.
A year, yeah.
A year, a
Yeah,
month is crazy, but a
yeah.
year, I'm so maybe I don't have that much information. So maybe that's why I'm not informationally overloaded. But that's why I think it's so important to not be dealing with everyone's random blog articles where they're talking about leading lines down a corridor
Oh yeah,
because you're like that's
yeah.
useless, right? So it's like how do you filter out information, right? Like how do you know if
Mhm.
something's good or not? I
Yeah.
think
So
that would
yeah,
help.
yeah. You reminded me that I wanted to say that about it before. So usually I'm reading books when someone actually has something good to say about it. I already landed in a spaces where like I was reading books where it was fun for someone, but usually it's like maybe I'm getting some information from this book. It's not great. I already knew something like that, but it's good. It's way better than watching a like blog article about a person that just started working in the industry and is doing first level, and it's like yeah, leading lines exactly. There are again a spectrum of that, and different things can. I've already found a lot of blogs that are really there was a blog called Captain by Rank, I guess. I don't remember exactly what it was that, but it was a blog by a anonymous game dev manager. Uh, he was not writing about in which studio he is, but there were like horror stories and his solutions to that. And you can see that his seniority was like 10 plus years, maybe even more. So that blog was awesome. And I
That
went
sounds
through
good.
all these articles. Yeah, I went
That
through all
sounds good. I
his.
need to read that
Uh,
because I was thinking about trying to make something like that, but I was like, everyone will know it's me. Everyone will
I
know.
yeah,
So
some people can, yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna tell you about this dream I have. I have
Hmm.
this idea, right? I want to make a
Hmm.
game studio where it's all anonymous. No one gets
Hmm.
credit at all. No one has
Okay.
any positions. It's just like X, right? Everyone's name's just like X, like like Speed
Wow.
Racer, like Racer X,
Uh-huh.
right? So it's like Artist X, right? Like everyone is just nothing, right?
Hmm.
And then so people can push the boundaries and do stuff that they don't want to get ruined for,
Whoa.
right? Like real heavy art games, like stuff that has a message, right? Because no games right now have messages. They're all like,
Wow.
let's just have fun, right? But there's a few games that have like messages, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what's a good example of it?
I think Journey was cool.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like real heavy, like Papers
Oh,
Please, like Papers Please, or
okay.
like
Yeah.
that the game, I think it's called Riot, the game where you start riots.
Oh yeah, by punching a person in the face, and then actually it
Yeah,
happens. Like yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Like
yeah. That's
stuff
very
like
cool.
that where it's like an art game, but they're still
Mm-hmm.
fun, but they have like an artistic message that's like kind of provocative, right? Like, ooh, ooh, I don't really like, I want to make people uncomfortable. I don't want to make them uncomfortable. I want to allow people the opportunity to make people uncomfortable.
Nice.
I guess, I don't know how it would happen though, because everyone wants
That's a.
credit, right? Like people want credit on a game,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I worked on this, and they want to be able to show it off,
I
right?
mean,
So to
yeah. I
get
mean,
to get people to be like, hey, do you want to work on this game? No one gets any credit for it. No one does anything. It's just like an art piece. Because I think that would be really just weird, right? Like I think there's space for that in the
mm-hmm.
because everyone would be like, what? Like, what's their new project? And you could get different designers, right? Like, what if Shigeru Miyamoto
Yeah.
wants to make a game like GTA, but he can't because of Nintendo and it's all
Yeah.
sunshine and rainbows. But there's probably some sick, twisted darkness in there,
Yeah.
like something
Yeah.
really messed up. That it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, let it
Yeah.
out.
Exactly. Yeah. It's super creative, and I think that when someone actually says like, "I want to be part of that, and I'm okay with giving up credits," it's fine. Like maybe if, just like you said, maybe not everyone want to do that, but I would love to be part of such a project because I have a bunch of things that it's not like I don't want to ruin my portfolio because my portfolio is already ruined. So
How is it ruined?
I haven't shipped anything for like 5 years, so it
Well,
feels
what are
like
you
I'm
talking
dead in the
about?
industry.
When Cyberpunk releases, boom.
Yeah, I mean, I will have like Dying Light 2, Cyberpunk, Shadow Warrior, maybe, but it'll be like thanks to or consultants or like the guy that was here and talking stuff. So yeah, so being a
Yeah, that's
consultant,
kind of
that's
a
a bad
messed up.
part. Yeah, that's a bad part of being consultant. You are not being credited, even if you are hired by them as a full-time employee. It's up to them how they want to credit you. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's stuff like that. But yeah, going back to that information overload, can I? Because I have something to say
Yeah.
here. So I think it's a personal thing. It's not like 30 books is doing that kind of stuff. I think it's just I was not reading a lot. I was playing games a lot for years and reading maybe 2 4 books a year. Only that these mandatory like Art of Game Design, for example, by Jesse Shell. Like everybody was talking, it's great, or Level Up. And so I was reading this kind of like super, maybe not basic,
Basic.
but
Yeah, basic.
yeah,
You could
something
say
like
basic.
basic. Yeah, something
They're,
like
they're, they're
basic.
basic, and that's the thing that's also one of the things that makes me mad. I'm like, it's so, like, I don't want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I guess basic's the best word. I don't want to say high level because high level makes it seem elevated, but like
Mm-hmm.
detached, I guess, like away, like just
Yeah,
simplistic, like
yeah. Simplistic is a great word. Yeah, I
simplistic.
remember when I got actually Art of Game Design from Ian Bowie from Treyarch. He
Yeah.
borrowed that book to me, and I went through this book, and it's great. I call that affect a chocolate. So it's like with eating a chocolate. You feel great at the beginning, like oh, it's so good, right? But after a few hours, you're like, okay, there's nothing left, and what happened actually, right? I don't feel good about it because like
Yeah.
I'm on a diet, for example, right? So with these books, you read the book and everything is so well written, so smart, and you've closed the book, and after a day, someone asks you what was your favorite part, and you're like, I don't know, like that were cards with questions, right? So that's a part like there's that effect of feeling smart after reading a book, which is not really a real knowledge, but still, even after reading any kind of book, there's that thing that you got a lot of knowledge subconsciously, so you can implement that, but when someone will ask you like, what was in the chapter about goals, and you're like, oh, I don't remember, right? But still you have something in your head about it, so that's a good part of it. So it's not like, reading is ruined. But with these basic books, these simplistic books, I was like, I had a bunch of seeds planted, and I should actually read more about goals because I understand on the basic level how goals work. But if I want to actually make a game, I need to know more. It's not enough. When you want to create a book about game design,
Yeah.
then if you would like to write everything on the really decent advanced level, it would be like 2,000 pages probably, and nobody
Yeah.
would read that.
Yeah.
So even right now, when I'm doing a level design book for already like a few years, and every time I'm adding stuff, adding, it's already 3 books, 3 volumes, and I have around 1,000 pages of text of
Wow.
notes. Sometimes these notes are duplicates, and sometimes I have a few notes on one topic that I can actually remove. So it will be not 1,000 pages, but still a bunch of stuff to go through. And every time I'm reading a book, I have, I don't, where is it? A recorder, a voice recorder. And when I'm reading a book and I have something cool, I'm turning on the recorder, recording that sentence or that kind of thought I had. And then after a while, I'm getting these recordings on my PC, getting the MP3s to the text format, and categorizing them. For example, right now when I'm reading that book about psychology of cognition, I have a lot of notes about navigation. So I type category navigation and the notes. And so I'll be reading, when I'll be writing my book, I will be able to actually tell like, okay, I got this information from this book. So it will be more credible when taking stuff from
Got it.
anyone. Yeah, yeah. So, and I
Yeah.
feel because of like I'm touching the same knowledge few times. So I'm reading a book. That's the first time. Then I'm getting MP3s to notes. That's the second time. And when I'm doing a chapter in a book, it's the third time I'm getting the same note. So I feel that after 3 times, I already know something. But with this information overload that we were going to, I think it's a personal thing. It's not like, it's a magical number that people will be like, oh, I don't know, but it
Yeah.
causes this effect. Because of playing a lot of games, I feel that I I get my brain lazy. I don't know how to say that, but it's just like
Yeah.
for the at the beginning, reading in Polish was super easy for me. When I started reading in English, I couldn't get meaning from a sentence. So it took me a bit because it's not my first language.
Yeah.
So it took me a bit of like learning to read in English to actually understand a sentence of like how actually, because there are 2 types of reading. Some people read every word and actually play that like in the brain as like how you would say that. And for non-native speakers, at the beginning it's quite troublesome because you don't know where is dot and how to actually where the sentence ends, and it feels weird, and you focus on that feeling of, oh, it's weird, so you're not reading that exactly as you wish. And the second type of reading is actually you read every second or every third word, and you are trying to get your own meaning from it, which is quite risky because you can get completely different meaning, but it's faster and you don't have this result of why it sounds weird, because actually it will sound weird. It's a mental switch of like how you read. So I've tried both methods, and actually the first one was better. I just had to learn how to read in English. And there are books that are written in very simple English. Like recently, I was reading Uncertainty in Games by Brian Upton. And sorry, not by Brian Upton. I don't remember. Situational game design was by Brian Upton, and actually it's written in a very cool, simple English. Like I understand everything, and I know the sentences are not huge, super long, and the book about psychology is a brain melter because you have like, oh, hippocampal pieces of
Yeah.
part. Yeah. It's like, oh my god, like parts of brain, the Latin names, like, oh my god. Yeah, so yeah, that's the thing. And because of that, I feel just overwhelmed by information, um because like getting all that stuff into process, like my personal design process, is It's so much that I feel because of like, I don't know, maybe I'm getting older, but I'm forgetting that stuff, and I have to put all that thoughts from the books to the paper, because without that I would forget it, or it will become a mess in my brain. So yeah, without these notes, I would be in trouble.
Wow, that's a really good strategy, though. I like taking the audio recording. I started writing a level design book, but I'm not nearly in 1,000 pages. Holy crap! I'm like maybe 20 pages or so,
Okay.
more than 20 pages.
Okay.
I can check, but I don't want to open it up right now. But yeah, okay. Next question:
Hmm.
Have you done any VR before? Do you have a VR headset?
No, I have a maybe not tiny apartment, but I would say that when it comes to finding a spot for it, I wouldn't have enough room. But I would say that I'm excited by it, but I'm waiting for next generation of VR. I think so. It's that's me. That's not like VR is bad or VR is not polished enough, but I have a thing that if something new appears on the market, I'm waiting for all the beta bugs, I would say, get fixed, and then just like with new AAA games, like I will buy it after a few months when actually the patch 1.22 will be released, and actually the game will be really decent. Because of I don't have time, so it's even better for me because I will hear comments from people. It's like, oh, you should wait, you should buy, Yeah. Like for example, when I was young, I was not reading reviews or not listening to reviews on YouTube because I was getting these games anyway, because I had time and I feel that I have to, especially huge games like Assassin's Creed, for example. And now actually I'm more careful, so I'm checking reviews if the game is worth that time, and also if it's a good time to buy it. And there's a cool guy on YouTube called ACG, Angry Central Gaming, something like that, Angry
Yeah,
Centaur Gaming. And actually he's scoring the game. He's like, you should buy this game now, you should buy it on sale, or just maybe
ignore
not.
it. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So for me that's exactly what I need. And actually he's getting really into detail about the games. It's not like, oh, it looks fun, it's cool, it's yeah. But actually he's getting into details that even a designer wants to know. So I listen to his thoughts about games and sometimes take notes, because like, oh, that's smart actually to think about it that way.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. So when I play games, I always take notes while I'm playing the games. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't do it when I read books, but when I'm
Yeah,
playing games, I take notes.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh, they did this, and I'll write it down. So do you take notes while you play games, or
yeah,
do you
yeah.
just?
Also recording. Yeah, I have my voice recorder right next to me when I'm playing. And the funny thing is, I recently had a talk on Digital Dragons about why we make bad games. And
That was
a
your
lot of,
topic?
yes, yes, it was quite controversial.
That's very
But
controversial.
yeah, so because of I have my own company, so I'm not shitting into someone's bucket of cool fame. I was like, okay, yeah, Mateuz Piaskiewicz, Sentinel Design Consultancy, which is the name of that company. Why we made bad games, which is like actually the title was traps and cans of worms we encounter during designing games or something like that. And for example, I was talking about not only game mistakes like loops are broken or something like that, but usually on the designer side. So for example, we forget stuff, like that was one of these notes, or we
Yeah,
ignore vision, or we don't have a vision. So all that stuff was actually the very simple basic mistakes of designers working on the game, not literally how the game works.
yeah.
Yeah. So it was like and because of that, like bunch of my notes were from games that I've played and were really bad. I like to play bad games and take notes
Do you
how.
really?
Yeah, I know it's weird, but for me, when I hear that game X, I don't want to tell titles of like recent bad games, because someone worked
Yeah,
on that. So for example, I've heard that there's a buggy game, and there was some kind of like dumpster fire stories during production from that game, and I was like, I really want to try it. I want to play it. Usually people will be like, okay, maybe they will make a patch or something, or it's gone already. But I was like, I want to see that. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why I have it from where I took that habit. But yeah, but I like to play these games and actually see, and I see that it's usually not the fault of the whole team. The game tries to be really good and fails in only certain places. And you can see that clearly, that game design is messed up, or graphics like performance. And this is where, from these failures I feel that I'm learning a lot. Instead of like playing great game and
Yeah.
seeing like, oh, they made that cool, that feels like obvious. There's like, usually it's very hard to innovate right now or be extremely creative, because so many games already appeared on the market, so many games are created. So when I'm playing a good game, I'm like, oh, that's smart, that's cool. Not many notes. But when I'm playing a bad game, it's like, oh my god, that's like, oh, that's a failure. I need to be careful about this. I need to such a long sidelines are really crazy. It depends on the
Yeah.
editor, of course, right? But
Yeah.
in the production, what could cause that? Maybe the guys that were doing the level were not aware of this problem of sightlines. So probably there was a miscommunication between different departments, like the engine
Yeah.
or programmers and artists and designers. So that kind of investigation makes me feel really good when I'm playing such games.
Yeah. I think sightlines is going to be the new buzzword. It's going to be the 2021 buzzword. Once
Could be, could be. And
once we get in
when
it.
I'm thinking about next gen games, and because of PS5 and your Xbox is almost here, so and Unreal Engine 5 also with that kind of unlimited triangles thing. When I'm listening to that, I'm like, oh my god, like the fidelity of graphics will go up.
Yeah.
And you know what that means, like how many people will have to hire to actually, if you have
The
memory.
cost. The cost for
Exactly.
development is
Yes.
going to go up,
Yes.
but I think there's a saving grace here, and that's photogrammetry.
Oh yeah.
So
And yeah, yeah. And
so
procedural also, yeah.
I think that if you're making a realistic game, I think your production costs could go down if you're very smart about how you build your pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the thing with photogrammetry is legal, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
from doing outsourcing stuff, you have to change things, right? Like I can't just scan an iPhone and then be like, "Hey guys, here's an iPhone, it's perfect," right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Apple will sue you,
Yeah.
right? So you have to
Yeah.
change it. So if you want
Yeah.
to use photogrammetry, guess what? It's going to be exactly the same as this,
Mm-hmm.
and they can sue you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
gonna have to change it. So then if you're gonna change it, how much work is it gonna take to edit it to be different
Exactly.
versus making it from scratch? And then how much of the cost is gonna be there? So it's
Yeah.
gonna be a big thing going forward. But I'm pretty
Yeah.
excited.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's gonna
Yeah.
make worse. I think it's gonna make worse games too,
Why?
because the sightlines are going to be really big, right? Or larger. So there's going to be these huge environments that I
Mm-hmm.
think people are going to have a real hard time to fill with content that's engaging,
True.
right? It's going
Yeah.
to be
It's already.
beautiful, but it's going to be like, I don't know how many open world games I've played where it's boring because I'm like, well, what's supposed to happen? Like, oh, I'm just walking, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then it could be like, that doesn't fulfill my thing because I'm like, as a kid, I'd probably enjoy it more because I have more time. But as an adult, I'm like,
Yeah.
just where's fast travel at? I need the fast travel
Exactly.
button. I want to get to the
Yeah.
next moment because I want to be done with the game, which kind of sounds sad, right? It's a little sad. Like I just want to finish it as
Mm.
opposed to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
enjoy it.
that's our lifestyle. Yeah, sadly, it's not our decision, really. It's how
Yeah,
we live right now, right?
yeah,
So yeah, but exactly. I wish to have more games that are not 60 plus hours and I know
yeah,
25 square kilometers plus or something like that. Yeah,
yeah,
but exactly when it comes to fidelity, when you have such a huge world, when if you're not using photogrammetry or procedural like generating stuff procedurally, it would be super hard to actually feel that. Imagine that we have process where every designer and every artist is setting up stuff manually, brush by brush or model by model. Even with prefabs, still it's
Yeah.
a lot. So we would have to hire a lot of people, or or the games will lose actually on the fidelity. So I'm worried about studios that haven't figured out the process yet. So we are going into the next gen, where actually communication and smart process would be even more important to sustain the business. And then you have chaotic studios where they cannot actually get even simple things done without crunch and without any kind of drama. This will be really tough for them. So I think that this generation, the next generation, could be um, showing even more these kind of leaked information about the studios, how bad stuff is in some places, because really we'll have just more work to do,
Yeah.
and less at the same time or less time. And if
Yeah.
games will be not more expensive, like I've heard
They
that some
are.
games will be set, yeah, they
They're gonna
are
be
okay, so
$70. Yeah.
exactly. So with that, studios actually will, maybe some studios will have, with after hiring new people, will actually see that they are how to say that, not equal, but they are getting the same money, they are not losing because of that change. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can see it going two ways where developers are even putting more stuff in, so it makes it feel worth the $70, but that
Oh,
more work that they're putting
yeah.
in doesn't offset that $10 difference.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's going to be a race to the bottom because people are like,
Oh.
I don't want to pay $70 for a game. I want to make my
Mm-hmm.
game free to play, and I'm going to make my game cheaper. I'm going to I'm going to call it indie. I'm going to sell it for $30. I'm going to sell it
Oh
for
man.
whatever. And then if you make a game, if you have a really good system, right? Like let's just say your pipeline is really rock solid, and you have the best tools, and you can figure out a way to make a game for cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, then you do make your game for cheap, and then you undercut. You sell your game for $30 or something,
Yeah.
and then everyone who's making the $70 game can't really compete with the $30 price point,
Yeah.
and then they're
Yeah.
gonna lower their price down, and then it
Could be
just
it.
everyone's prices go down, and then no one's making any money. The industry crashes because right, like no one's making money, so it's just like right, or the
Yeah.
expectations get so high where all of these indie devs who don't have the ability to make,
Mm-hmm.
even current gen games, right? Now they're getting asked to make these next gen games,
Yeah.
and the gap between them is just going to get that much bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And then
I
you're
mean, it's
like,
all, yeah, consumers will decide here, but
yeah,
expectations is huge. I recently noticed how much building expectations and how much of expectations people already have based on the studio name, on a designer on this game, or even when people know nothing about the designer on certain games. It's even better for the studio because they don't have expectations. Imagine that you are making a game like Mario, super popular. There's like bunch of, like, it's a pop culture thing right now,
mm,
and your publisher asks you to create another game which is better, and you're like, okay, when you have ideas, that's great, but when you actually know how to do it. But when you have such a high expectations from people, like they want to have new Mario,
yeah.
and all you can figure is Tetris, it's like, oh my god.
What do you
Right?
mean? All you can figure
It's,
is Tetris. Tetris is up there too.
I know, but it's like,
But I get what you're
imagine
saying. I get what you're
that.
saying. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah,
musician's first album is a greatest hit, like instant
yeah,
sellout, right?
yeah.
It's like I want to say like Linkin Park's first album, right? It's so
Hmm.
good. Hybrid Theory. You listen to it, every song is just a hit after hit after hit.
Right.
Whole album, amazing. And then the next album comes out, really good, not nearly as good. And then the album after that, you're like, why? It's not even close, right? And it's just the
Right.
expectation, right? The style changed.
Yeah,
It's a completely different sound,
yeah.
but you're still comparing it to this old sound that you kind of fell in love with, right? So I could totally see that happening, right? I
Hmm.
think that happens with almost every franchise. I think it happened with
Yep.
Black Ops, right? Like Black Ops 3 is really good, but people
Hmm.
are like, "Oh, it's not as good as 1 or 2."
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, it's true, but why? And I can't point to anything and be like, oh, it's because of this, right? Like, there's no good reason. It's just nostalgia. It's just this thing we built up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are certain memories that people have with Black Ops 2. Even me, when I was playing on like with guys at Techland, we had a clan, and oh my god, it was there was a bunch of like emotions of my like private life when I see levels like Cargo, for example. I remember a bunch of funny moments, or Nuketown. And when you release new game and I don't have these memories with new levels, I'm feeling like, okay, maybe we'll get there. And imagine that one of the guys from our team started playing Battlefield, and so we were playing only three of us, and it was a downhill from that moment because it was not the same. So even if the game was great,
Oh no.
we had no chances to get these same level of emotions and fun from the game because of what happened on our side. It was not a game's fault, because the game still was engaging. We were playing. It was like,
Yeah.
one decision. So with Black Ops 2 was, yeah, I have a bunch of these memories, and oh my god, it's such a good game. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we should call it. I think we should end it on this because we're hitting the
All
two
right.
hour mark.
Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed our chat and catching up with you. Hopefully,
Yeah,
we
it's
can
just
do this
awesome,
again
man.
because I really enjoyed this time.
Mhm.
I'm hoping everyone else will watch it and enjoy the time too because I think this is a pretty
Yep.
dope interview.
All
Um,
right. Awesome. Thank you. No, I really like it. That's awesome.
cool. Is there anything you want to? Can people still get your Digital Dragons talk? Should I
So
direct people anywhere?
it will be available. There are two talks from Dragons. One was Digital Dragons Academy, but it's sadly only in Polish, so it was very local. And the second one, the Cans of Worms, will be available after. It should be available like 2 days ago, but they are releasing one episode a week, maybe, and I was not, first in the line. So one day this video will appear on their YouTube channel for sure. Because I was asked by them if we should do that, and I said like, yeah, go ahead, for no problem. And yeah, you'll be able to find it there. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for
Mhm.
joining me. Thanks for being a
Yeah,
guest. I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it. If you start your podcast back up, definitely have me
Hmm.
as a guest.
Yeah, sure.
Uh,
I mean, I probably I'm not going into podcasting because of like, lack of time, but
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. But of course, it will be great to have a talk with you, and maybe we'll continue that even somehow like offline. I mean, not like chatting, but
yeah.
offline, like on Skype. So yeah,
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
yeah. Thank you.